So let's talk book 10, Shadow of the Dragons. Title is
The Golden Trees Burn.
The Golden Trees
It's
Burn.
just so much action, like
Yeah, that's
big cinematic. I was like, I remember reading it and I was up to like 65% of it, and it was just huge. Like it was just, and it's starting. And the thing about book 10 to me is I was starting to get. It was in book 10, and I guess the beginning of book 11 too. I'm gonna go back and read book 11 tonight when this podcast is over, and I'm excited about that. But haven't had time. I've been on the road. I've driven 32 hours in the last 5 days. But book 10 was really, you get to this point where you're like, okay, it's a 12 book series. We already know that book 12 has, because there's a lot of, all this stuff has to end in book 12. So all these storylines are going to have to end. And so book 10 starts to feel really like the end is coming. And that was one of the big things for me, was just how much action there was. Like, it's not like where book 4 was one of those books where they spend a lot of time kind of like talking and getting to know each other and stuff. It's like you've got this team and they're all just doing whatever they can to survive and kick ass.
Yeah, I mean, half that book is the Battle of Atho.
Right. And that is where Lumi, as a 10-year-old, got all of the soldiers, the sailors on the boat, to join their side, because she just went up to them and she hugged them. And the one that really touched me was whenever she went up to, well, I think this is book 9, now I'm reversing, but Duke Feos, when she hugged him and she said, "She doesn't blame you. It wasn't your fault," talking about his wife. Like she was happy, I was just like, tear. That was precious.
Yeah.
But then book 10, when she goes up to all the soldiers and she does like the same thing with them.
Yeah, she used that illumination insight to help recruit them, and she was doing great. And then
here's my Lumi.
Hi, Lumi.
This is Ayla, my 10-year-old. She was listening in, so I thought I would bring her on for a minute.
I'm glad you're a hugger.
She is, for sure.
But that brings us to Duke Feos's end. Happens in book 10.
Oh, you finally did it. You finally did it.
I finally killed the character. I killed the major character.
And he was like, he was in how many books? 1, 2, 3, 4 books, 3 books.
He introduced in what, 8, 9, 10? Yeah, 3 books.
Yeah, so like, a pretty major character. I honestly didn't think you were going to do it. I thought that somehow he was going to be okay too. And it kind of, it made me feel like, okay, it shocked me too. I'm like, okay, there is still a chance for characters to die in this way.
Yeah.
And this is not a death, but Ithjau is now collared.
She's collared. She's a slave to the Master Doubts, and even worse, Lady Wufei, Lady Shadow, the terrible dragon. And Ithjau is just not having a good time. And they did their best to try to save her, but not an author who was being very mean just didn't let them succeed.
Yeah.
They did free a different dragon. They freed Lady Raisis, so she got freed. So they recruited that dragon to their side. And Lord Tian got free too, and he just said, "I'm gonna just peace out with my wife anyways, even though she's a treacherous, sea bag." And
well, he kind of is cool because he kind of sticks with her, even though he philosophically kind of sees both sides a little bit and thinks that she's way overboard. And she kind of convinces him how significant her side is and the reason why he should stay with her. And he just says, okay, fine. Yeah.
She knows how to push his buttons.
Yeah.
Like any good, you know,
Codependent,
person in a
narcissistic.
relationship. Yeah, like anyone that's, you know, that's got like some personality disorder that knows how to manipulate their partner into doing what they want. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And he's definitely, I mean, she's way more evil than he is.
Oh yeah, she's yeah, she's very much all about the end of everything. She really just wants to just see things die.
She plays her negation very well.
Yeah, she's very different than Gall. Gall is not wanting to see everything die. He's the end of everything too. He's like, you know, we don't have to like hasten it. We don't have to
do
be
it right
active.
now.
It's going to go. It's, you know, everything ends on its own. You don't have to speed it up. But she's like, no, I want to speed it up. We'll have to read book 11 to find out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like there are some series that are multi-book that really there's like a very, very strong dividing line where one book completely ends and then the next book still carries the overarching story, but it's definitely a new thing. Lord of the Rings is kind of like a series that sort of just continues, and it's just sort of, it can be read as one, you know,
it's
one
unit,
book.
But it's one book. You just couldn't publish it as one book.
Yeah, and I feel a little bit like this is that's why, and I've said that since the beginning. This is a little bit like that too. It's it feels a lot like it would be great to read it kind of all together, like in one series where it's just in like one box set where you can't stop reading because you just have to keep flipping pages. So that's, can you still see me? Because it's getting dark.
Yeah, you're looking pretty dark, but yeah, we can still see you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but yeah,
you're light and dark, Reid.
Pardon me?
I said you're light and dark, Reid.
Right, exactly. But yeah, no, I loved book 10. It's short. It felt, I don't know if it just felt a little shorter because there was so much action in it that I just rocketed through it and it was over. And I was like, oh wow, this is over already. I can't believe it.
It's shorter than book 9. It's longer than it's longer than book 1 or book 11 and 12.
It was just so intense with the action. I think it's in my top 3. Like I think like book 8, book 3, and book 10, I think so far are my favorites.
Good to hear. Book 10 is the one I'm least happy with.
Oh really?
Yes.
Okay, good, because then book 11 is probably awesome then, because I love
book 11 is the one I'm most happy with.
Okay, all right. Well, I gotta jump into it. I have no internet. I have no television. I have no cable at all. So all we can do for 5 days basically is read and go to the beach. So I'll be doing a lot of reading.
All right.
Well, you might, if you want, sorry, my dog in the background. If you want to have a stretch of reading, when you start book 11, you're not going to want to stop at all, ever.
She's gone through book 11 and 12 almost straight.
Yeah, I'll probably finish it like this evening, like tonight after I get off of this. I'll finish it and I'll have opinions. And so have you read book 12 yet, Sarah?
She's almost done with it.
Yes, I'm almost at the end, and I think I started it yesterday.
Yeah, she's into the denouement. She's in the wrapped out of it.
And there's a lot of that, you said. There's like, that's like half the book, right?
It's not half the book, but it's
it never stops. Like, it's action and it's action and it's action.
Right.
Most of that book is action. Yeah, most of that is just the final battle.
Well,
but there's a good, like, there's a nice, I think there's some good stuff in the beginning, you know, and then there's, I think, a good 15-20% at the end of it's just sort of, you know, letting you say goodbye to the characters and coming down off that stress.
I'm sad that it's coming to an end, but the cool thing is that you can go back and start it all over.
I have no doubt you will, because I know there's things that have happened that I'm like, there was foreshadowing for this. I can't quite remember what it was, but there was something in the beginning that made me go, wait a minute, something's going to happen. And then it did. And now I can't remember what the original thing was.
Well, I've read book one twice, and I read it. I don't remember what made me want to read it again exactly, but there was something I wanted to go back to it for, so I could see if there was foreshadowing to it. Like, you knew right away, that you mentioned that you knew as soon as Voni started, talking about watching the girls, and commenting on them and stuff. You knew that. I did not. I just thought that they were friends, and she was just, it was just something that they did together because, why not? Like, she was just kind of egging him on and like being silly with him and stuff like that. But when I went back and I read book one again, knowing everything else that I knew about her character and about her relationship with Ruan, I was like, how could I not have figured this out? Like, right away.
That's funny.
I felt a little bit slow.
No, I've been immersed in that community for the past 10 years, so I know how to watch for signs now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, one thing that came up that I really liked at the beginning of book 10, I believe, is when Yuden used Zai's futuring to get Lumi to come to the boat.
Yeah,
that was brilliant. It was like, he's like, okay, I have to intend to get in this boat to go across to tell Zai to send Lumi, even though he knew he wasn't actually hopefully planning to go all the way over there. But like, she saw him come over and ask for Lumi to go, and then she sent her because she saw it in the future. And so Yuden's like climbing down into the boat, and about that time Lumi flies over and is there, and he's like, yes, it worked.
Yeah, that's the fun part. You have to make
been
Zai
amazing.
Yeah, that's just making Zai's future stuff work for me instead of like trying to fight it. I mean, I think I've watched a lot of movies where people like give people like weird powers or something, and then they realize like, oh, this is too much, so they try to like not take advantage of them or whatever. But no, you gotta use that stuff if you give them to a character.
Zai's been awesome in book 9 and 10. Just which was the one where she hustles the sailors with the knife throwing because she's a few. That was one of my all-time favorite.
Book 9, and Lumi like sold her out. Yeah.
Lumi,
Lumi sold her out.
Lumi sold her out, and she was like, kind of like playfully pissed off. But
yeah,
it was just such a fun, like, because Zai's been through a lot of shit, like just like throughout the entire series. Like she's had to deal with some of her own weaknesses, not necessarily having, she's had to kind of come to where she is and stuff like that. And there was a whole book where she was completely incapacitated. So it was just nice to see her like kind of in a fun kind of swashbuckling kind of like upbeat manner that she was, where she was doing that. And it was probably the most fun scene in book 9.
Yeah, that's definitely true. But yeah, because like if that happened in book 10, we would have had teenage Lumi, and teenage Lumi would have been like helping her out. Teenage Lumi, she's a rebel.
Teenage Lumi is so different. Like I couldn't get used to. It took me a while to get used to teenage Lumi, and she's
trying a little too hard to like act adult,
as teenagers tend to do sometimes. Yeah.
She's like she's like swearing, but this doesn't really come off right when she says it.
The Eternal Gale.
Yeah.
The way it's
that's book 11.
Okay, never mind.
They find Reed's laboratory, but they don't get into it at the end of book 10. That's right. Or Yuden opens the way, but he also passes out, and has more crazy dreams. So they don't actually go into it in book 10. I make you wait for book 11.
Oh, the blighted jungle, the
Hmm.
blighted woods.
It was fun going back there. I set that place up way back in book 1, knowing we'd eventually get back here.
Yeah, that's
I don't put a stomping giant monster called the Great Unclean Beast, and you think they're not going to fight it? Yes,
right.
they're going to.
They're going
It's
to.
early book 11. It's early book 11.
So what am I missing from book 10?
Book 10 had it had a lot of crazy. We finally got to meet the last Dragon Lord, Thuge. We finally get to meet Thuge.
Finally.
Heard about him.
We don't see much of him, but we meet him.
And we fight him. And we pass along his mate's message. And then we see what the Great Apostate can do with the effigies. And how he can just totally, and we see why like he needs all these dragons alive, because he can steal their power and use it. And that might be important. Just saying. And it was enough that it killed Thuge's host, being drained, and that sent him back into being an egg or whatever. Yeah,
right, so, like they all felt it at one time. Like all the dragons felt it.
All the dragons felt it. Like he stole all their power to try to break the barrier, which didn't work. But he can do that whenever he wants. And
I know that Voni tried to kill him, but her spear, it didn't work.
He teleported away. Yeah, he had a little amulet that teleported him away. I ripped off some D&D there. But yeah, teleported him away to his little safe house where his daughter was hanging out. Voni's mom, that's where Voni's mom ran off to. And so she's not happy to see her dad.
Right. Yeah, not too excited.
And he's a little surprised to see that she's alive, because he thinks that she's dead and that he has her heart beating in his little magic box. And so yeah, it's good. He would have like created a whole new universe and thought he would have brought his daughter with him. Then it would just be some random person, and he'd be like, "Who are you?"
Right.
Like, yeah. So things are working out for the Great Apostate. He might have lost this battle and had major setbacks, but he still has the effigies, and he's still going to go into the plan. He's not going to stop, even though he just totally lost the chance to get the key. So it looks good for our heroes. They're stopping the apostates. The world's going to be saved. Things are looking up at the end of book 10, which is an odd thing to say in a fantasy series with 2 books left, that the heroes are optimistic. But
and there's also some really, really good dragon stuff, like with the support dragon characters, like the grown-up dragons. Like they kind of come into their own, and there's I'm not going to even Bithau and Rabbit and Woozy, and they've all got their own kind of personalities. And, I was prepared. Like we got to use them. They got to go and fight. We got to see them in action. I got to annoy my editor by using the same word to describe how they turn in the air, and apparently they always turn in the same direction. It turned out when I wrote the rough draft, they always went right.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. So
there was a word that you used that yawing.
Yaw is an aeronautical term. It's when you turn in the air, you yaw to the right or left. Because I was looking for adjectives, or not adjectives, synonyms, because I had a lot of having to describe them maneuvering in the air, and I was like, it was just like the same word would get used over and over again if I didn't. So I was just trying anything. I didn't.
And then they turned again, and then they turned.
Yeah, so it was like bang, swoop, swirl, yawed. So I'm just like throwing so I'm just looking on the Thoris.com and going like, what is a synonym of this, so I can just have something else, because I was just using like the same word in the rough draft, and my editor is like, you used this word like 700 times. He's like, I did a find and I did 7. Like, yeah, she's like, you got to stop this. This is terrible.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I had to go through and just start replacing. So I just kept using banked for most of it. So I was like, all right, And it was like you just read like paragraph after paragraph where it's like the words used like 2 times in like 5 or 6 in each. Like, yeah, so it's like used 10 times on a page. And it's like, okay, this is a little, it's excessive. I gotta vary it up. So that's something to note writing my new series, to remember to not always have them turn right and to use different words.
I was working with Raymond Beckham and Darius Cook on their, it's called the Lost Sigil series. It's the one that I narrated, the first book so far, and I got to help do some editing. And one of the creatures in the book, they have like a big battle with this one kind of creature, and he was like this monster, hulking beast. There was like all how many words can you have for this big creature that's in front of you that you're fighting? And I remember like seeing hulking beast, monstrosity, and he was like trying to figure out all the different words to use. So I definitely get that.
One of the words I hate, one of my pet peeves, and this is something that James never does, is the thing. When something just gets referred to as a thing over and over and over and over again.
Okay, that's just because you haven't read Sister's Crime, where there is an entity called the Thing with a capital.
That's okay. That's fine.
It's a capital thing.
If it's called the Thing, you know, kind of like the big orange marble rock guy is called the Thing, that's totally fine too.
They don't know what else to call it. It's something nasty that gets created in the book. They're just like, yeah, okay, so yeah.
So
I'll
as
keep
long
that
as
in
it's
mind.
capitalized, right?
Yeah, it is capitalized. But yeah,
I'm telling you, book this series is just fantabulous. And I've literally told, I mean, I don't know how many people at work, like I'll just randomly stop in the hallway and be like, hey, do you like to read? You should read this. And so I really have. I was talking to somebody in the cafeteria the other day. I mean, just literally, I sent out a message on my like messenger app at work. A friend of mine and I were talking about books, and so I sent a link to the books, and then I just like copied it, and I was like, hey friend, you should read this, and I like copy pasted to like 5 other people. It's like, you really need to read these books. Like, no, really you should read them.
No, it's an excellent series. The characters are great, but you know, with any of his series, like, you know, I've like with the Illumination books and the Storm Below books, like the characters are, you get into them very, very quickly, and much like this cast of characters, it's very easy to connect with the characters and to be feeling the same way about, you know, all the series, which is why, you know, I don't have a lot of time to read, but I devour James's books every chance I can, and I'm always like, anything that you have that I've never tried this character, this thing, I've never tried this before, I've never read book 1 of, and if you haven't anything, send it to me because I want to try it out. Because yeah, like this is an excellent series. It's one of many excellent series. But the thing that makes it really cool, and the thing that, in my opinion, makes it stand out a little bit on its own, not necessarily better, but on its own from the other series, is that because it's 12 books, you have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of different styles of narrative in there, and you get the opportunity to have like entire books that are basically getting like the slower books, the real character-based books where they get to really know each other and their conversations and their little nuanced things that you'll refer back to. Whereas in a trilogy or something like that, you might not have as much time to do that when you've also got to fit in action and stuff like that. And that's like you'll have it, but you won't have as much time as you have with a 12-book series. And that's I think that's what made the series unique, as well as some of the tricks, like Zai's whole thing, like with the future Zai and like the weird POVs and stuff like that. The shocking POVs that don't normally exist, but all of a sudden do, just so that, you know, you can close it off or introduce something that you'd never see coming. Like those are the things that kind of stood out to me in the series.
Yeah, no thanks.
I think
So,
the
yeah.
end of I'm not sure which end of the book, which one had Gaul, because I know it's one of those that had Gaul at the very
Book
end.
8. That's book 8.
Oh, that was book 8. Okay. Yeah, that
All
was
as a POV chapter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
at the very end of book 8.
that was really cool. I love that.
well, y'all, I think we might can wrap it up for tonight. I am very much looking forward to our talks on book 11 and 12. I hope we have a whole party of people to talk to about those. I don't know who all will have read them by then, but yes, I am very eager to go forward with this series, and I'm not eager for it to end, but I'm so eager to know. So I'm kind of like Zai, like I don't want to know, but I'm gonna find out anyway. So looking forward to
Yeah,
have
well,
You have like 4 chapters to read, so won't be long.
I'll have them. I'll be ready for the next talk for sure.
All right. Well, it was great.
Yeah.
Being here, everyone out there in YouTube land, you have a great one.